David, if you get me for the prayer.
Okay, can you hear me now? On TV, can you hear me? Ron, can you hear me?
Yes. I'm muted though.
But you can hear me. Okay, very good. Good morning. We have a good crowd here today. I don't know, probably 12, 15 people here at the club. And they've opened up both rooms, so we have plenty of room to social distance as much as anybody is comfortable doing so. And this morning, we're going to get started with our invocation, which is going to be done by Cap Clegg. And then Dave Williamson is going to lead us in our pledge. Whenever you're ready, Cap.
Okay. Father, thank you for letting us live in a country where we get to peacefully vote for the leadership of our country. Please let the announcements of our voting results be met with peace, calm, and unity. Changing gears, Lord, please help us rid your world of polio. Bless the hands and protect the lives of all working on this endeavor. And thank you for letting us help you. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Cap and Dave. Okay, I have one announcement, and then I will open up for any other announcements. Susan Robinaugh is looking for shoppers to help with the Adopt a Family program this year. The shoppers are going to meet on December 5th. That's a Saturday at 9 o'clock in the morning at Coles on Sawmill Road. If you are able to help, please contact Susan Robinaugh. Salvation Army this year is assisting 287 families, which include 875 children and 392 adults. Our club is going to host 3 of those families for the Salvation Army. Those 3 families only have mothers and grandmothers raising 10 children. They range in ages from 1 to 15 years old, and one has a special needs child. The families are trying to make ends meet, but in our current environment, it's very hard for them. We're also going to be picking up 7 to 10 kids from Centero that we're going to host this year as well. We do not have specifics on them yet. Our goal as a club is going to be, like it has been in past years, to raise $3,000 to provide these families with usually we have pass the hat at club meetings and at the Christmas party. This year, we're going to do something different. We're going to use hand bid, which you'll all remember we used for the online auction. And we'll be able to donate in different increments through hand bid to this cause. You'll be getting an email about that soon. So please reach out to Susan Robinaugh if you can help with the shopping effort. Any other announcements this morning that anyone would like to make, either here or on Zoom? Pete Philbriggy, come on up.
Okay, the 24th annual Polar Bear golf outing is on February 6th. It's the day before the Super Bowl. Same bat time, same bat channel. Safari Golf Club, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock shotgun start. We may or may not have a raffle, because we may or may not have raffle items, but we'll have something. But the golf is on, so we're still looking for sponsors. You know, we've had Kent Underwood and Beckett, and some of those people have sponsored before. So we're still looking at whole sponsors too. So we're still offering whole sponsors of $100 a hole. So it's all going to be normal. So we'll definitely golf, whether or not the luncheon happens or the raffle. That'll be week to be seen. But at least the event is on.
All right, that's awesome. Glad we're going to be having Polar Bear. It's going to look different this year, but we are going to have other announcements. Okay, Roberta, come on up.
Hi, everyone here and online. I've raised about $300 to $400. I haven't tallied it exactly by selling the calendars. So I can still order more if anyone wants calendars of Israel or the flowers. And I think that's it. Yeah. Thanks for bringing in the toiletries, and we'll collect them at the next in-person meeting.
Okay, thank you. Other announcements?
Yeah, I have just something, an observation that I wanted to share, and I'd appreciate the feedback from other people as they experience it. But the new North Market over in Bridge Park opened, and if yesterday was any example, it's going to be a COVID hotspot very quickly. There was very little social distancing. People weren't wearing masks. I went in there and I eventually left. I didn't feel comfortable there. There was so little compliance. And I would appreciate if other people, if they go over there, just make an observation and let me know what they think. Maybe it was just the first day jitters, but it was something that I was kind of taken aback by, the clear lack of social distancing and lack of masks. So anybody else observes it when they're over there, I'd like to hear about it at next meetings. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Dennis. That is concerning given the numbers that we're seeing right now. Any other announcements? Okay, come on up.
This is I just wanted to bring something up that I had an observation on. We're in the middle of a pretty divisive time in our politics, as we all know. We've seen a very interesting election play out this week. And I read an article by David Brooks of the New York Times, but it was in the Atlantic, talking about why we find ourselves in this position today. And he talks a little bit about our lack of trust in institutions and in our fellow humanity. And one of the things that he cited was the decline in membership in Rotary. And I thought to myself two things. I said, number one, well, he certainly hasn't been to our club and seen all the great things that we are doing. But two, the fact that he would call out the importance of our organization, of Rotary, and what we do to bring people together I thought that was very significant. Our work that we do here with our group is so very important to bring people together, to unite us all by what our common goals and beliefs are. I see it every day with this organization and the great people that I get to work with on a day in and day out basis. So I wanted to bring that up because it is a reminder of how important our organization is and the work that we do and the work that the Rotary Foundation does, and have everybody keep that in mind as we kind of embark through some challenging times.
That's a great message, Peter. Thank you for sharing that. I totally agree. Our club, we haven't lost any members, and I hope we won't. We've actually gained a member so far since COVID started. So we're on the right track. There's families with food on the table because of the work we're doing. There's kids that are going to have Christmas because of the work we're doing. And there is a very good shot that polio is going to be brought to an end because of the work we're doing. So it's very important, and we thank everybody who is helping us to keep this club with forward momentum through these times. Any other announcements this morning? Ramona, you'll have to come up here so that the people online can hear you. You can leave your liquor bottles there. Yeah.
I actually had a question as far as sponsorship or donations for the polar bear. Who do we contact?
Me.
Okay, that me was Pete Fulbriggy. So if you want to sponsor or volunteer to help out with polar bear, contact Pete. Thanks for, I wouldn't have, if I'd known that's all you needed, I wouldn't have made you hobble up here. Any other announcements this morning? Okay, well, let's get into our program, and I'm going to call on Susan West to come and introduce our speaker for the morning.
Good morning. We have got a great speaker today, and it actually combines with an announcement that I wanted to hold off until we introduced our speaker. We had 40 club members sign up for the 125 Club to give to Polio Club. Yeah, so I think that number is pretty outstanding. I think, Sanan, you had shared with me, where'd you go? You had said that's like half the members. That's really an amazing turnout. So I'm really happy about that, and happy to introduce our speaker, David Yule. David is the Assistant Governor for District 669, and he's a proud Rotarian, of course, past president of the Rotary Club in Lancaster, and he's the chair for our district's Polio Plus campaign. He's got some great stuff to share with us today, but I got to tell you, this guy, I don't think he ever sleeps, because he is a full-time Fairfield County Board of Developmental Disabilities. He's on the board there, president of Lancaster, or I'm sure I'm supposed to say Lancaster, right? I think that's
there it is.
Lancaster City Council, and he pastors a small country church in Rushville, Ohio. He's also an affiliate faculty member at the Ohio Christian University and a certified John Maxwell speaker trainer and executive coach. So I think his presentation is going to be extra special. But then also, I wanted to share with you that he and his wife Perla have been married for 18 years, and they have 2 children. And the really cool thing is that his daughter Samantha and son Ethan, age 10 and 6, come to Rotary meetings every so often. And it just dawned on me that, you know, we have not been normal as of late, but I hope we do get back to that point where people can bring their kids and grandkids and things like that, because I think it is a special moment to share with your kids, and I'm glad that David is doing that. So please give a warm Rotary welcome to David Yule.
Well, thank you so much. It's so great to be with you and the great Rotarians there at the Dublin AM Club, and so thankful to past District Governor Calvin and your presidents and each one of you for all that you do. I love being a Rotarian. I appreciate the gentleman's comments. I believe that the work that we do is vitally important around the world. Our 1.2 million members are making an impact every single day. And even in these challenging and difficult times, we see small clubs, we see large clubs, we see satellite clubs. Whatever the case may be, Rotarians are committed to putting service above self. And so I'm so thankful for those comments. I'm so thankful for the opportunity to be with each one of you here today. More than 30 years ago, Rotary made a promise to the children of the world to end polio once and for all. And today we have made unbelievable progress toward that goal. And we literally are this close to eradicating polio. And because of great Rotarians like you, we have come so very, very far. And we are on the brink of one of the most significant humanitarian efforts the world has ever seen. And so as we think about this, as we think about what we have done, it's really unbelievable. And did you know that polio could be the second human disease to ever be eradicated from the face of the earth? Many of you would know that smallpox is the only other one that this has ever happened with. And we are now on the brink of making this a reality in our world. And I love being a Rotarian, as I said, and I love our friends over in Evanston, but I do not like this slide because it is not nearly definitive enough for me or for you or for any Rotarian who is working and fighting to end polio now. So I do a little edit on it anytime I give this presentation. Polio will be the second human disease ever to be eradicated. And every person sitting on this call on Zoom, every person sitting at the country club today, in our lifetime, and in a short period of time, I believe, we are going to see an end to this disease. As we talk about polio and what it is, I never want to take for granted. I heard that your club's growing, you've got new members, and that's fantastic. I never want to take for granted that everyone who's a Rotarian, that everyone who's a part of the work that we're doing locally and even around the world understands exactly what polio is, what Polio Plus is all about. And so I'd like to take just a few moments to talk about exactly what it is we're trying to do. Polio is a paralyzing and potentially fatal disease that still threatens some children around the world today. Polio virus invades the nervous system and can cause total paralysis in a matter of hours. In the most severe cases, it can also lead to death. It can strike anyone at any age, but it predominantly strikes children who are aged 5 and under. Now, polio can be spread person to person. Most often, it is spread due to unclean drinking water and unsanitary facilities for wastewater. And so water and wastewater issues are one of the main ways that we continue to see wild polio virus spread in countries where it is still endemic. Polio, though, can be prevented. Now, it can't be cured. Once you have polio, you'll have polio for your entire life. And again, it impacts people differently.
I think we lost David.
Did we lose everybody or just him?
I think just David.
Yeah,
No way to tell because he's sharing
I'm
his
sending him a
screen.
chat right now.
he'll probably dial back in.
Yeah.
Well, while we're waiting, I'll say a few words about the 125 Club. We had 39 people, I believe was the final count. No, 40 people sign up for the 125 Club, which is the most I've seen in my time in Rotary. So that is awesome, and thank you, everyone. What that means is we're going to be giving over $4,000 to Rotary International Foundation and over $1,000 specifically to the Polio Plus Fund. So that's really huge, and I think probably one of the best numbers in our history, I would guess, but definitely in my time. Ron did, yeah. One other thing I'll say while we're waiting, we're tentatively planning December 4th as our annual meeting, which means we're still going to have our regular speaker. I think that might be Sanan that day, but we'll be voting on the 2021-2022 board, which Mike has lined up for us and will present. So we'll look forward to that. So try to attend the December 4th meeting, and you'll be able to vote yes or no through email.
Are we having a holiday party this year, or is that canceled?
There is no holiday party this year. Peter and his social team are looking at potentially having some type of online gathering, but that would be it. Susan?
We had somebody in the chat ask if they could still give to the 125 Club, and I think we should say yes.
Yes, you may still give to the 125 Club. That is still an option. And so if you're interested in doing that, please contact Susan West. Do we have more bottles of vodka? We'll find one. We'll find one.
Oh, there's David.
We're out of whiskey.
Okay, David O is back. You have to unmute yourself, Dave. David, you got to unmute yourself.
I got you. Yep.
Right.
There you go.
There you are.
So I've done this about 20 times and I've never had an issue until this morning. So I don't know what happened on my end with the technology. I apologize. So what was the last thing you heard?
Polio.
The last thing we heard was you saying that it affects everybody differently.
Okay. So we know that polio continues to have an impact around the world and continues to impact specifically children. And so as we think about polio in our work, we have to then begin to talk and think about, well, we hear so much about Polio Plus. So what is Polio Plus? What does that mean? What is that all about? Well, for more than 30 years, Rotary and our partners have been doing much, much more than just eradicating polio. Now, that's the important part. It's Polio Plus, but there is a plus that's involved with this. And the plus is the additional things that come along with our eradication efforts, sort of the natural byproducts. Let me give you a couple examples. It could be additional medical treatment that kids are receiving. It could be bed nets, or it could be soap, or it could be a hand-operated tricycle for someone who has experienced and been paralyzed because of polio. In fact, a study in 2010 was done, and that study showed that more than 1.25 million children were still alive today because of the vitamin A drops that are a part of the polio vaccine. 1.25 million children who we decreased susceptibility to other diseases in addition to polio for, who are still alive today. So preventing disease, providing clean water, creating jobs, impacting local communities, improving healthcare, that's the plus in Polio Plus. That's what we're doing as we go into these villages, these communities, into these countries to help eradicate polio around the world. Now, you know, Rotary doesn't do this alone. If my PowerPoint presentation was up, you'd see we have 5 or 6 partners that make up the Global Polio Eradication Initiative. It's organizations like the World Health Organization, the Center for Disease Control, and one of the places or organizations that I always like to highlight that you are no doubt familiar with is the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has been partnering with Rotary International for the past 10 years or so. And they match every dollar that you give as an individual Rotarian, every dollar that your club gives, every dollar that your club raises, they match it 2 to 1, effectively turning that $1 into 3. If. And it's a big if. See, Rotary International has had to make a commitment. In order to get the $100 million that the Gates Foundation has committed to us, we have to meet our goal every year of $50 million. And listen, I'll just tell you, there are some years that it's been really close. There are some years where we weren't sure we were going to make it, but every single year, Rotarians step up. Every single year, Rotarians come forward. And this past year, we raised $50.7 million just ourselves in Rotary in order to meet our goal and meet our obligation. And listen, I've done some professional fundraising in my life, and there is no better feeling than relieving a donor of the gift that they have promised to us once we have met a goal. And so in January of 2021, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is going to wire Rotary International $50 million. And then in June, right around international convention and international assembly time, the Gates Foundation is going to wire Rotary another $50 million, $150 million going straight into helping eradicate polio around the world. And it's an unbelievable thing. And what's really interesting when we think about our partners and we think about the Global Polio Eradication Initiative, you know, we went to some of these organizations back in 1979. Back in 1979, we went, we said, hey, listen, Rotary has a vision. We want to end polio around the world. And they laughed us out of the room. And they said, you can't take on a project like that. First of all, you don't have the kind of financial resources. There's no way you would find success. You don't have any sort of systemic process set up to get vaccines distributed and to do the research and to do the surveillance and the monitoring that would be required. You don't have the leadership structure, Rotary, to sustain a project like that. Your leadership turns over every single year. And so in the midst of opposition, when some of our current partners even didn't want to partner with us to move this forward, didn't think it was realistic, we did what any good Rotarian would do in the midst of challenge and diversity and opposition. We did it anyway. And we began to move forward in 1979, vaccinating kids against polio in the Philippines. And in the 80s is when the Global Polio Eradication Initiative started. It's when Polio Plus began, and we really solidified our efforts to make this a reality around the world. And hey, listen, Rotarians don't hold grudges. And so we welcome these partners. We can't do this without these partners. They were right. We couldn't do it on our own, but they couldn't do it without us either. And so together we continue to make unbelievable progress toward this goal. As we think about where we're at, I always think it's important to talk a little bit, and even in the prayer today that was prayed, this was mentioned, the people that are involved. More than 1.5 million volunteers and workers have been involved in the eradication effort for polio. And I'm here to tell you today, not all of them have made it back home. 150 people have died in the name of polio eradication. 150 people have died putting service above self in the name of Rotary to make sure that we do what we promised we would do, that we kept our promise to the children of the world. And so in just a second, I'm going to talk about the financial cost and the financial impact, but there is a human cost here as well. And there's not only a human cost in those volunteers and workers that have gone out, but let me also say that when we talk about being this close, and we really are this close, that gap right there, those are real lives. Those are lives around the world, and in particular right now in 2 different countries that are being impacted still by polio. We must close the gap. We must make sure that our work hasn't been in vain. We must make sure that those who have died in service to this mission's lives were not given for nothing as we continue this forward. And as Rotarians, I am convinced we are going to make it happen. And so we count the cost and understand what we have invested in human lives and also in capital. Over the last 30 plus years, Rotary has invested $2.1 billion to eradicate polio around the world. And that $2.1 billion that Rotarians have invested has turned into more than an additional $10 billion with a B $10 billion from other organizations, from governments around the world, from these partners that we have who have said, we are with you and we want to bring an end to this disease. More than $12 billion invested. And as we think about that, it naturally brings us to the question of, well, then where are we? How far have we come? In the last 30 years, we have decreased wild polio virus cases around the world by 99.9%. We really are this close. As we think about that, back in the 80s when we got Polio Plus started, more than 350,000 people a year were contracting wild polio virus. In a calendar year like this, it'll be less than 200. We have come so far. 99.9. We need to celebrate, and we do celebrate. In addition to that unbelievable news, a part of that 99.99% is the fact that just recently, Nigeria and the entire African region was certified wild polio virus free. Well, what does that mean? For a while, we had 3 countries where there were still wild polio virus cases: Afghanistan and Pakistan, where cases remain today, and Nigeria. Now, for the last 3+ years, Nigeria has had 0 cases of wild polio virus, and that's what it takes. To be certified as a 0-case country, to be certified as wild polio virus free, you must have 0 cases for 3 consecutive years. Nigeria just achieved it. They were declared wild polio virus free, and that means the entire African region is as well. And we need to celebrate. That happened just in August of this year. It's an unbelievable milestone, and it's because of Rotarians like you that it is even possible. And yet we realize, as far as we have come, we continue to have work to do. We know that Afghanistan and Pakistan continue to see cases of wild polio virus. And the unfortunate reality is there was a time when that was going down. The unfortunate reality now is those numbers are going back up once again. It's my hope that this calendar year, we will have less than 200 cases of polio, but we're trending in such a way that it's possible we could go over that number. Now, there are several reasons why that's true. One reason is the worldwide pandemic that we're in. Once the pandemic occurred and everything got locked down, we had to pause our eradication efforts. We could not travel. We couldn't get into the villages and places in Afghanistan and Pakistan that we needed to get into. Places, by the way, that have unstable governments, difficult terrains, a very mobile and transient population, a level of vaccine refusal and concern about what it is these people that are coming into their village are dropping into their children's mouths. And so there are multiple reasons, including the pandemic, why we are seeing the numbers go up in Afghanistan and Pakistan. But let me tell you, Rotary is on it. The Global Polio Eradication Initiative has been meeting. We have started our vaccination efforts once again. And let me just tell you where we're at in the efforts. It is a door-to-door, village-to-village eradication effort right now. That's what we are down to get these final cases completely taken care of. Now, the Taliban doesn't let us go door to door. And so we have considerable challenges in order to make this a reality. But the bottom line is that we continue to move forward. And in fact, as we start our eradication efforts up again, our vaccination efforts up again, we just had in the last month or so a vaccination campaign in Afghanistan, and it went very, very well. A 5-day campaign where there was very little vaccine refusal, where there was very little concern about what it was we were doing there. And we must continue those things, because here's the thing. We have to vaccinate every single kid. We vaccinated 400 million people, 400 million kids last year alone. But more kids are born every day. And we must continue vaccinating them. And so when we talk about the cost and we talk about how far along we are, we have to remember we have these 2 countries and these 2 cases, but Rotary's work is in more than 80 countries right now. Because here's the thing, the Global Polio Eradication Initiative put a 5-year end game together, 5 years to end polio once and for all. That started in 2019 until the pandemic hit. Now that the pandemic's hit, I think we're going to be 1 or 2 more years out. But in the next 4 or 5 years, we're going to get this done. But we need another $950 million in order to get it done. We need almost another $1 billion to make it happen. And that was before the pandemic hit and we had to pause our vaccination efforts. And you say, how in the world is this possible? That we have a couple hundred cases left in the world and we still need $1 billion. Well, it's not just the 2 little drops that we see go in the kid's mouth during a vaccination campaign. That's a small part of the effort. And billions of dollars go into those vaccines. But we also have to do surveillance and monitoring. We're in more than 80 countries doing surveillance and monitoring because we need to make sure that the work we've done continues forward. If we're going to withdraw from a country, we have to make sure that medical professionals, local governments, and other Rotarians and Rotary clubs in those areas have stepped in and are going to continue to ensure that this is just a part of what happens. It's just a part of what happens in America. Your kids probably got their vaccines. My kids got their vaccines. Polio is in there. We continue to vaccinate against it today, and we cannot stop. And so that's why, even with just 200 or less cases for the year, that we must raise nearly $1 billion more, because there's so much more that goes into it than just the 2 little drops. We have to continue these efforts forward. And it's only possible because of great Rotarians like you. And so I just want to say thank you. Thank you for all that your club does. Thank you for all that you've done as a club and as individual Rotarians to give and to support and to raise awareness for Rotary and for our efforts. Our number one effort, our number one initiative. Rotary is a big tent and there's so much to get involved in and so much to do and focus on. But this remains our number one initiative, to end polio now. And I just want to say thank you to the 40-some members of your club that have become 125 club members. That's a great way to support polio. $100 to the foundation, $25 to Polio Plus, and you'll become a District 125 club member. Let me also encourage you, if you're not doing it, to go onto Rotary Direct and give your gifts there. It reduces the administrative costs of processing your gift. It increases the efficiency of getting your gift where it needs to go through Rotary Direct. And so if you want to give online, and the great thing about Rotary Direct is you can set it up so that if you wanted to give $1,000 to polio every year on this particular date, you can set it up and it just happens. Or you can give monthly on a particular date, or you can go on and give a one-time gift. There are many, many ways to support the work of Rotary. One of the really cool new ways to support the work of Rotary is through a platform called Raise for Rotary. So you see these crowdfunding things, these GoFundMes, right, all the time. Well, Rotary has a platform for that now. So you can download the platform, you can set up a fundraiser, a personal fundraiser, and send that link out to your family, your friends, your coworkers, to the Kiwanis Club, whomever, and work to get them to support our eradication efforts through your personal fundraiser. Now, you can't do it at the club level. It's Rotary International Projects. And so you can pick polio or one of our other international projects, host your own fundraiser, and help us eradicate polio. And so we celebrate all that has happened, and we realize that there is so much more to do. And you can take action by supporting us through your giving. You can take action by starting a social media conversation and posting out about our efforts. You can take action by recruiting a member to your club and helping them understand the important work of polio eradication that Rotarians do around the world. It is your time, your talent, your resource, your commitment that makes this possible and that helps continue forward toward this effort, because we truly are this close. And the bottom line is it's not just a cheesy 80s song. All we need is a miracle. All we need is you. Your involvement is what's going to help push us to where we will declare in the next, I believe, 5 to 6 years, a polio-free world. It's going to be challenging. It's going to be difficult. There are going to be obstacles put up in our way, but we're Rotarians and we don't give up. and we can't give up. Bill Gates said it best. You fight disease like you fight fire. You don't go in and put 95% of a fire out. You've got to get it all. And that's where we're at with polio. We've got to get it all. And with your help, we will make that a reality. And so I appreciate you. I appreciate the invitation to be here. I apologize for whatever the tech error was going on, but I'm so glad to be able to talk with you a little bit. And I've seen questions pop up and I've not been able to keep track of them. So if someone wants to call out a couple of the questions that I've seen pop up, I'll be happy to pause here and take just a moment to try to answer a few questions.
Okay, we do have a few minutes for questions. Ron, can you see the questions on the text and read one out for us?
Sure, I can. Let's see, I know that Roland had one. Once wild polio virus is eradicated, does it have the potential to come back? And what's the plan after it is eradicated?
Sure. So the answer is yes. If countries become lax in their vaccination efforts, wild polio virus does have the potential to come back. There will be a resurgence. And so that's why even when we declare Afghanistan and Pakistan wild polio virus free, which again, remember, once they have 0 cases, requires 0 cases for 3 consecutive years. Once that happens, our work in polio really isn't done yet. Because we'll continue to do surveillance, we'll continue to do monitoring, and not just in those 2 countries, but likely in 50, 60, or 70 other countries, just like we are now around the world. And so everyone always is interested as we get so close to eradicating polio, what's the next big initiative? And we're going to have to find one. That's absolutely true. But we're going to have work to do in polio for years to come as we work to ensure that every dollar that we've invested, every ounce of effort that's been invested isn't in vain, allowing it to come back in some countries. So there's lots of work still to do, even once it's declared wild polio virus free.
Hey, Dave, I had a question. Has Rotary been asked to give recommendations on how, when a COVID vaccine is available, how to make that an international effort? I just figure we have a lot of experience.
That's absolutely right. Yeah. When we paused our vaccination efforts due to COVID-19, work didn't stop. The work turned to attempting to help world government understand how to distribute the vaccine that is going to be ready, hopefully as soon as possible. It's not political. You know, everyone thinks differently. I'm hopeful, regardless of politics, that by the first of the year, we're going to see this be a reality and begin to distribute. And so while we're ramping our efforts back up now for polio, for a period of time while we were paused, we were involved in that effort of discussion and consultation, and potentially even our delivery systems to be used to get that vaccine out. We have become experts in this, that's for sure. And there's more work to do. A lot of the money I'm talking about goes to research as we continue to say, listen, we do the 2 little drops, but there's talk about changing to the injection. We would receive that here in America. It's a little more expensive, but it's a little more safe. You've likely seen that I've talked about wild polio virus. There is an unfortunate reality with the drops. It's called circulating vaccine-derived polio virus, and it's possible for children with weakened immune systems to, once they're vaccinated because of the vaccine, to contract polio. We track those cases separately, and that's not an issue with the injectable vaccine. And so research goes into, will we switch to that in the next 2 or 3 years as we continue to do surveillance and monitoring around the world? And so lots of work is needed as we go forward, even though we really are that close to becoming polio free around the world.
Okay, we're gonna have to cut it off right there. If you have further questions, though, I'm sure David would be happy to talk with you one-on-one or answer emails about this. Dave, thank you very much for being here and for updating us on polio, our Polio Plus effort. To me, it's a reminder that the work of Rotary transcends nationalities. It transcends race, it transcends religious beliefs, and it transcends definitely political parties. And I'm very proud to be a part of this organization and the work that we're doing all over the world and here in our community. Next week, we will, did somebody say something? Okay. Next week, we'll hear from Mike Schettinger of Schettinger Funeral Homes to talk about bereavement. This will be a Zoom-only meeting. Mike Isler will be leading our meeting next week. I will be out getting a new bionic hip. So our quote of the week comes from Bill Gates, and he said, "I believe that every life is valuable, that we can make things better, that innovation is the key to a bright future, and that we are just getting started." Thank you, everybody, for being here, and I'll see you again soon.